for writers everywhere, info on writing and critique groups. What is a writing group? Starting with the basics. It is a group of fellow writers who commit to meeting up and sharing their work regularly in order to help with brainstorming, writing advice, critiquing each other's work, preparing for publication, all of that jazz. So it's just like generally better to have like a little community of writers that you can like meet up with and just kind of chat with and share how you're doing. Plus getting advice and feedback on your work is huge bonus. So why should all serious writers find a writing group? If you're writing solo, it's kind of like not taking advantage of one of your greatest assets, which is just fellow writers. Okay, so first point is that you have just like a plethora of ideas. Like it's really hard to brainstorm by yourself, right? You just kind of sit there and you're going to go in circles. But if you have a group of people who you can bounce ideas off of, get ideas from, it helps speed things up. You can get a lot of great ideas. I feel like a lot of my best ideas come from other people, which is like somewhat embarrassing, but that's what happens. So finding a group of like-minded writers can really help generate story, plot ideas, and then help you through any difficult parts of the writing process. Whenever you have writer's block, sometimes it's really great to be like, guys, I'm really stuck right here. Do you guys have any advice? Can you help me through this? And it'll hopefully work. One of the major pros of having a writing group for some people is that basically you get free edits from your book. I mean, not 100% free because you're editing their book in return, but when you're working towards publication, you want your story to be as clean and as like polished as you possibly can. And so getting other people to read it and give you feedback along the way is like just crazy helpful. They can help point out plot holes, problems, character stuff. And then just in general, if you're like working with a writing group as you're like going through your writing career, your skill level just naturally improves because you're constantly getting feedback. People are pointing out, hey, you have this habit of doing this. And then you can kind of start to work on that. So it's just like really great to have other people's eyes on your work to kind of learn and grow from them. Okay, also, if you are hoping to get into the publishing world, you never know who you're going to meet along the way and how they're going to be able to help you. So even though like everybody in your group wants to be writers, every single writer has a different experience on the publishing journey. So you never know who in your group is going to have one experience and be able to tell you what they learned from that, or like make connections and be like, hey, I know this publisher, or I met this agent the other day. And it's just like really great to have these like already built-in kind of networking people just like right there who you're tight with. And also like it's great to just have some cheerleaders just kind of built into your life, because the publishing process can be brutal. You get all of your hopes and dreams like pinned on, I'm going to get this book published, I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to get an editor, and you get a lot of rejections and a lot of failure along the way, which is kind of a bummer. But if you have a writing group, these people are going to like pick you up, they're going to support you, they're going to cheer you on, kind of like, let's get back on our feet, we can keep going. And then when you do have your amazing successes, you have people who you can go to who are immediately going to be like, oh my gosh, we knew you could do it, this is so great and amazing, yay. Which is just amazing to have in your life. Positive people, we all want positive people in our lives. I love my writing groups because as much as I love my family, they don't care at all about literature. So they're all just like, oh, you're a writer? That's cool, I guess. But like my friends, and especially in my writing group, they're just like, oh my gosh, Ashley, this is happening, great, or whatever. So it's really nice to have these people who you can just go to. Okay, so what do you want to look for in a writing group? Writing for similar audiences and genres. So it's always good to have diversity, but if you've got like a sci-fi writer and a fantasy writer and like a rom-com writer and then like a children's book writer, you're not going to have a ton in common across the board. You might not be able to give each other the best advice because you're not like on the same kind of track. genre and audience wise. So like kind of try to stick at least with like a similar audience age range, or like all of you are doing fiction or fantasy or like sci-fi fantasy kind of thing. Similar skill level. This one's somewhat tricky because you kind of have to be a little bit judgy about other people, but like in a good way. It's hard and really unhelpful if you're in a writing group and you're all like really different skill levels. Like if somebody's like been published 5 times and somebody's like straight out of like middle school, just starting to learn how to write proper sentences, like that's going to be difficult to have in a writing group. So if you're all kind of like at the approximate skill level, like you've all been writing for about the same amount of time or like that kind of thing, it just makes it better because it's just more productive feedback. You're all kind of like growing together, and then it kind of helps avoid any like frustration or awkwardness if you're like, man, this person's just like not at a great skill that I want to read, and I don't want to like be rude and tell them you're not that great of a writer, fix your grammar or whatever it is. So yeah, I had to do that a couple of years ago when I was like, okay, I really want to get serious about my writing, so I don't really want to be in a writing group with people whose skill level is still at like, no offense to you guys, but like high school writing level. You kind of have to take your career and put it as a priority, and it might hurt some feelings, but if they're really your friends, they'll respect your decision and be like, yeah, you're putting your career first, I get it. So anyway, that's a big one. Similar level of commitment. You want to be in a group of people who are like have the same kind of goals. Like if people are like, I'm just writing for fun, that's great. You can all write in that group. But if you're like, I really want to get serious about writing, I want to get published, but the rest of your group is like, yeah, we're just writing for fun, that's not going to be the most productive for you. So you want to find a group of people who are like, also, I'm ready to get published. Let's work on this together. We can like find agents with each other and like help each other with queries and whatever. And then also like, how often do you want to meet? Do these people want to meet like once every other month, or do they want to meet every week? That can make a difference too. Okay, and then last thing, it's good. This isn't like the most important. This is like maybe if you're trying to get picky, but it's really great and helpful if you have a diversity of like people and personalities and life experiences. Just because like if you never know what skills or experiences people have that'll like help you with your book. Like I'm a physics person, right? Very science minded. Not a lot of creative writers kind of tend to have that other side of their brain going for them. So a lot of my writing groups kind of like appreciate that I like get in there and I'm like, okay, technically that's not possible if we look at the physics side of things. And sometimes I'm sure that's a little annoying, but it can be like, okay, this is a really cool scene, but physically nobody can actually do that. So let's rework it and make it plausible, Or like somebody who like knows a lot about horses and they're like, hey, you like talked about this saddling your horse. That's not actually how it goes. This is how it works. So if you have like a group of people who are like kind of unique and interesting in their own ways, that's great. If you can, like a diversity of like genders is great because sometimes like women aren't the best at writing male characters and males aren't the best at writing female characters. So it's good to kind of have that kind of diversity as well because they can help make your characters feel more realistic, make your relationships feel more realistic. But again, that's not always, beggars can't be choosers. So, if it's just kind of like, hey, these are the only 5 people that I can find in my state who are interested in forming a writing group, this is the best I'm going to get, I'm going to be happy with it, then that is totally fine. Okay, so if any of you guys are interested in finding writing groups outside of this class later, this is just like, you can always, make a group with your friends or your family. Social media is a great place to go. Tons of Facebook groups. You can like make a social media post. Hey, I'm looking for a writing group. Anybody interested? Look for like hashtags or other people's posts. We already talked about NaNoWriMo, but that's a great place. They have like groups already like set up in your area. You can join like national or state societies. Like this is the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. That's one that I'm a part of. And they have like the New England group or the Florida group or the whatever group, and they have like meetups that you can go to and stuff. You can literally just Google like writing groups in my area and they'll like pop up with like meeting things, or make connections at school or your workplace or anything like that. So it can be kind of hard, but not impossible to find a writing group. General tips, maximum of 5 people. It's really hard to read a lot of people's work. So if you're like reading more than 4 different pieces at a time, it can get to be a lot. So maximum of 5 is just like safe for everybody not to get overwhelmed. Meet as often as you need to, but I'd advise at least once a month just to keep it regular. Limit your word submissions. Like I know people who like submit their whole novel in their writing group, and I'm like, okay, that's impractical in my opinion, because who's gonna read that? It's gonna take them like 3 months to read that. So if you want like actual good regular feedback, maybe do like a chapter a week or something, like maybe more if you need to. But yeah, I always suggest a maximum of 5,000 words, especially if you have a larger group, so you're not reading too much. And then have a means of easy, frequent communication. Do you have a Facebook group? Do you meet on Slack? Do you all have each other's numbers and have a text group or like an email chain or something? Just so it's easy to communicate and that's fun to just chat and get to know people. And writing group etiquette. There are certain rules that should be followed in your writing critique groups. So if your work is being critiqued, you should be willing and actively critiquing other people's works in return. This is like a give and take situation. Be kind. Always say something that you liked, you know, before you start to offer the critiques. So like oftentimes in my writing groups, we start off with like, what are all the things you loved about this piece? And then we'll go into like what should be worked on or what things we found that maybe need to be tweaked. Okay, this is a big one. Do not tell them how to fix their work. This is their story. This is not your story. Okay, offer suggestions if they want it. But the best thing to do is just point out what's wrong. Like, this character is feeling a little flat to me. I feel like maybe they need more voice or they need more action or personality. But don't be like, okay, you need to rewrite this paragraph this way. Your character needs to be doing this, right? This is their book, their story, their character. They're in charge. You're just offering ways to help them, you know, improve things. Only give the level of edits the author specifically requests. So a lot of times for your first draft, it'll just be like, hey, can you just make sure this flows nicely, this makes sense, and my character comes out well? Or like, I have enough setting details or something. Don't like tear their work apart with like every little thing that you see wrong. Like there's a typo here and there's a typo here and this sentence was wrong in this way and this is here. Cause like that'll just be like really disheartening to people, and that's not what we're trying to do. Unless they specifically say like literally everything that you find wrong with this, point it out and edit it for me. But that's probably not going to happen, especially not on draft 1. Be honest, point out things that are not really working or not going great. But don't be like too like, I don't want to say anything that's wrong because I'm scared to hurt people's feelings. Like I know we all get that, but like we are here to look for critique and improvement in our work. So like be honest, say, hey, this isn't really working. Nobody's perfect. Okay. But like don't be mean about it, right? Like you suck. You need to get better at writing. Nobody's here for that.